Bitcoin and blockchain technology has captured the world's attention with its promise to fundamentally change the way that business is done across all industries. But where there is so much promise, there is an equal amount of confusion about the technology and crypto instruments. In December 2017, the Bitcoin price was at an all-time high of $19,783. The world's media went crazy, saying that Bitcoin's price had gone parabolic. And despite the warnings of savvy investors, ordinary people invested into Bitcoin without knowing the full extent of the risks involved. People took out credit cards, second mortgages, and personal loans to get into the cryptocurrency gold rush. But just a few short months later, over $600 billion was wiped off the value of cryptocurrencies, and the large majority of people lost everything. But some investors became millionaires literally overnight, and in the process became financially free for the rest of their lives. But are cryptocurrencies the answer to financial independence for a few or for many? To get the answer, we have launched a new series called Crypto Kungfu, which will take an investigative look at the current news, risks, and opportunities in the cryptocurrency space and give you access to the world's leading crypto experts right here on the Matt Brown Show. Listen closely to our $1,000 trading challenge, where we will ask these experts to trade with our money to prove whether the world of crypto, like Bitcoin, really do live up to the hype. And we're live. Hey guys, welcome to episode 8 of Crypto Kungfu. With me is none other than Lorien Gamaroff from Centbee. Welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Ring the bell. He has a bell. Ring it properly. Come on. It's like a trading bell. There you go. There we go. So welcome everybody back to Crypto Kungfu. We've been getting the world's best crypto experts on the show, at least some very opinionated people on the space. So Lorien, you're definitely one of those guys. So we're about to raise some eyebrows, right?
Exactly. And the funny thing is that even though I have been consistently stuck on Bitcoin, for the last 10 years, I've been advocating Bitcoin, pushing Bitcoin, and not just in the public sphere, but also government, banking, corporate. I've been around the world speaking to organizations trying to push this idea about Bitcoin, that I'm actually now the controversial one, because within the crypto community, supporting the Bitcoin that I support, which is, I think, the original Bitcoin, I've become this sort of left field guy now, which is kind of strange.
How do you become left field?
Well, that's the thing. But with cryptocurrency now, there's thousands, and for every single cryptocurrency, there's a community, an avid community that is believes strongly that their cryptocurrency is the best, their community is the best, theirs is the one that's going to survive. So not just is it a job to now try and educate the masses who've never touched this thing, but also now to try and convince the world that your cryptocurrency, and the one I support, which is the original Bitcoin version, is the one that's going to succeed.
Well, yours is the best, right?
I believe so, and I can back that up with a lot of reasons.
Great. Well, let's talk about some of those reasons. But first, before we get into that kind of stuff, what is Centbee about? Because, and I really want to land this point, because this is all about consumer adoption. Last time we were together on a podcast, we spoke a lot about this idea of, until the man in the street can, buy Bitcoin and spend it on things like milk and bread and consumer products, whatever the case is, then essentially it's not ready for blah, blah. And so Centbee is trying to solve that problem, right?
Yes, exactly. Bitcoin isn't only about payments. This is what a lot of people don't really understand yet, but they are coming to learn. Payments, of course, the Bitcoin token is a perfect form of money. It has all the right properties as money. But, one of the things that's important is it has to be useful to people. There has to be some kind of intrinsic value about it that makes people want to get it, to use it. And to say that you can hold it and you can keep it safe from prying eyes and you can make sure that governments can't stop you from using it, that's not enough. Now, of course, we're focused on the payments aspect. I can get onto the other aspect as well. And so exactly as you say, we want to make it that it's easy to use. We want to make it easy so people can get it. And we've already managed to crack that in this country, and I can tell you about that, to hold it. So it must be easy to use. And then last of all, the most important thing is you have to be able to spend it and use it.
Yep. So you're doing a massive campaign on 5FM. How much money are you giving away in Bitcoin SV?
So every day we're doing 5,000 Rand. and that's the whole week. So anybody who wants to win 5,000 rands worth of Bitcoin SV, download the Centbee wallet, and you could be in line to win. Yeah.
So those of you on Instagram tuning in live, go and how did they participate? Did they have to do it on 5FM, or are you giving it away somewhere else?
All you got to do is you got to download the wallet. So if you've downloaded the wallet, you can you're already entered.
The Centbee app.
The Centbee app, that's correct. So you can go to Apple Store or Play Store, and you can download Centbee. As soon as you do that, you've entered into the draw, and you'll get a call from one of the DJs on one of the days. And in fact, there's probably somebody right now, and you could win immediately 5,000 rand worth of BSV.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So how much cash are you putting behind this campaign? Like $2 bar?
No. Funny enough, advertising on 5FM isn't as expensive as the other radio stations. I think Metro and YFM, they're a bit more
getting bigger.
Yeah. So what we've decided to do is tackle that demographic. The kind of the 5FM demographic right now. Also, it kind of fits with their brand as well, sort of tech-centric and so on. But we're definitely going to be doing this on an ongoing basis. We want to reach the masses. We don't want to reach crypto enthusiasts. In fact, Centbee has this idea of who our target market is. And people who trade crypto, buy and sell, they go onto exchanges like Luna and Valor. That's not our market. We want people who've never, ever used Bitcoin before to download Centbee and use Bitcoin and see what it feels like.
And what are you? So what are they? Let's just say Kira here. I know you were giving away Bitcoin just before we went live. Well, amazing. I didn't get any.
Yeah, I can do it right now on air live.
Who wants Bitcoin? Yeah. Woo!
Show me your QR and I'll send it. Then you can see how fast it is.
Share this live stream if you want Bitcoin. Should we give some away?
We can.
We can. So if you're watching live and you share this, we will. Q, can you just monitor the stream? And then we weren't really going to go live, but now we did, so it's too late. But then we'll give away someone who asks a great question.
Yes, all they've got to do is they've just got to take a screenshot, post a screenshot with their QR code, tag Matt Brown or whatever.
Matt Brown ZA.
Matt Brown ZA. Tag your post your screenshot of your QR code, and I will send you 1,000 rands worth of Bitcoin right now.
Oh, legit!
Who's going to do that?
Ring that bell. That includes everyone here, so off you go.
Nah. Wait a second. We have to verify.
You can get 1,000 rands worth of Big Macs. Are you still in? Okay, you're still in.
If you want to enter the 5FM, just say tag it Centbee 5FM.
Oh, there you go. Brilliant. So do that now, guys. Get onto it. Share on social media. And the live stream is on my Instagram page. Cool. So enough of that crap. Let's get into... Well, in fact, before we do, we get into... We've got a whole show planned for you. I'm so excited. So basically, what I wanted to get from you is the following. Now, I've been asking the same question of everyone, and I'd love to get your view. So when Bitcoin was at its highest price... I was covering space. We did a couple of live shows together, sold out a lot of events, which was great. What would you, or how would you characterize the development of crypto over the last 18 months? What's happened?
Well, obviously it's been in a slump. All the excitement around prices is gone. I mean, even now we're going through another dump. So I think when it comes to the investment thesis and the store of value thesis, I think a lot of people are not so excited about that. But that doesn't mean that the space hasn't developed. And, specifically in the cryptocurrency that I support, again, which is Bitcoin, and that's listed as BSV on exchanges, people are starting to realize that Bitcoin isn't just this digital gold thing, this money, because, when it comes to money, we all have seen how countries like Zimbabwe, the currencies have failed. So everybody's excited about a new form of money that can free us from the tyranny of monetary policy from central bankers. But, I think that, and that's what everyone's been focused on, your cryptocurrency becoming this new form of money. And what was interesting is that Ethereum, when Ethereum came along, and that's the other major cryptocurrency right now, everyone would thought about this thing as a tech platform. Where you can now build applications and so on top of it. But what people have been realizing is that Ethereum has some fundamental flaws, and even admitted by guys like Joseph Lubin and Vitalik Buterin, that Ethereum in its current form can't actually scale. So, everyone's starting to think now carefully about this whole idea about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Like, what is it? Even today, it's very difficult to try and convince somebody who's never used it to believe in it, because at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to get them to do, is believe in this idea of that you can have this digital asset that has value. So I think over the last 18 months, people are starting to not really, especially with the price being so suppressed and down, not really gel with this idea of a digital asset of a store of value, because there certainly doesn't seem like it's a very good store of value. And I think now what we're starting to look at is, what else can this blockchain thing be used for? Now, the reason why I support Bitcoin BSV is because it is the original design of Bitcoin. And the whole idea around Bitcoin was as this was not just some kind of ethereal kind of digital asset, as a token as money. It was actually this idea of a decentralized ledger or database, where you could store information. And the important thing is that when you store that information there, it's there forever. No one can touch it. No one can change it. Now, if you think about companies that we all depend on, like Google and so on, I have a Google Drive, and if I want to upload my photos and back up my photos, I pay Google 100-something rand every month to have some storage on them. But now I'm tied to Google. If I stop paying them, my data is not available. If something happens to Google, my data's gone. Now, imagine if you could have a storage space that when you upload those photos or files or whatever it is to the storage, all you do is you pay to upload them, and then they're there forever. You don't have to keep on paying. There's no vendor lock-in. It's on this global database that can never be destroyed. That is actually, at the end of the day, the true value of this cryptocurrency. And this is why Bitcoin was so incredible, is because Bitcoin foresaw this. Satoshi Nakamoto, who invented Bitcoin, said this is going to end up in data centers, and it's going to become commercialized. It's going to be a legal thing. And so now people, again, are becoming despondent with this idea of a digital asset. They want to see more. They want to know, what are the fundamentals? And that's why I'm so extremely excited about Bitcoin SV, because, and again, that's the original protocol. That's the original design of Bitcoin. Because now companies are coming along, and there's a ton of them. If you just go and do your research and see what companies are now starting to use this idea of a decentralized data store to be able to host files, host websites. I mean, you can host your podcasts on an online storage system that will never be destroyed. I mean, right now, I don't know where you host all your stuff. You post it on platforms
everywhere. Yep.
Everywhere. What happens to those platforms? You're paying them. Imagine storing
YouTube, dude.
YouTube. And another thing is, you can monetize your content directly. You're not going through a middleman. You could host your podcasts onto a blockchain and get paid directly from your consumers.
You're talking about Steam.
Steam is interesting because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to create this blockchain where you can post content and stuff. But unfortunately, the Steam technology itself, is flawed in many respects. But Steam is a very good example of where this is going to go.
I love the idea of Steam, because it rewards content creators through cryptocurrencies depending on the value of the content that you create. Whereas it's not about the number of subscribers you have, but purely on the actual value of individual content pieces that you produce, which is quite cool.
Exactly. You've hit it on the head. The way the internet works today is we look at trolls and all that sort of thing. It's noisiness that really wins. And these social networks, they are geared to making sure content that is noisy and busy gets, the ones that have the most attention become most prominent. But that doesn't mean that it's the content that is the most valuable. The true content. The stuff. And Steam has that notion of, if somebody really values your content, they will pay you for that content. So that means now there's skin in the game. It's very cheap on Twitter to like something or to downvote something on YouTube. It costs you nothing. A troll is totally incentivized to go and just wreck the internet. But when they have to make a payment to downvote your content, well, they really believe strongly. If they're paying to downvote you, well, then you suck. But if they pay you to like you, and the more likes you get means that more people are paying you. First of all, you're incentivized because you're getting paid. But then everybody else can look and say, wow, this guy's content was paid for. I mean, he made so much money, it must be useful and valuable.
Yep. Cool. Well, that's great. On the Instagram feed, should that be horizontal or vertical? Doesn't matter? Okay, cool. I'm just seeing people on there. All right, cool. Let's get into our $1,000 trading challenge. update. So we've been asking people to, or our guests, not people, not random people. We're giving away money, you traded. But certainly we've been asking guests. So we've had pretty much, well, you'll know the usual cats. And everyone has been trading. So we yesterday put $2,200. It was a long trade by Fazam. So he reckons Bitcoin's going to run over the next 7 days. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you a fresh grand. Unfortunately, you only get a grand. He gets a bit more. But anyway.
Dollars.
Dollars, yeah. $1,000. Hence why $1,000 trading challenge. And so I'm not going to ask you just yet. But I will ask you towards the end of the show what your trade is. Okay. Hi there, guys. So Crypto Kungfu is proudly sponsored by Prime Health and ZA Nootropics. If you're listening to me right now, I know that you, like me, want to get the most out of your day. So whether you're an entrepreneur, a crypto investor, business leader, or simply a regular guy or gal like me trying to build something of value for yourself, you need what I have, and that is a customized mix of premium, high-performance smart supplements and adaptogens from Prime Health. This stuff is the bomb. So these products have helped me to make every day a success and have helped me improve my brain health, cognition, and overall stress management. ZA Nootropics are ready to help you too. So simply head on over to zanootropics.co.za and browse the online store of amazing smart supplements. And I highly recommend the Lion's Mane Mushroom. It will blow your mind. But whatever you buy, enter the code NINJA20 at checkout and you'll receive a 20% discount on your order. I cannot recommend these guys highly enough. So go there now. That's zanootropics.co.za. Cool. So let's get into the news. Tonight in Crypto Talk. I don't know why I say that. Crypto news. So we've been scouring the internet, Lorien, for some fantastic news for you, and I wanted to focus on the consumer side of things. For one reason is that you're all on this consumer train around crypto. So this one is called a headline, Mall of Africa to showcase Winklevoss-backed crypto payments. What do you think of those dudes, by the way? The Winklevoss brothers.
I like them. I mean, they are forward-thinking, innovative. They've got a lot of celebrity appeal, wound up with Facebook. And I mean, I'm glad that they're pushing this. I think they're a good face on the whole scene.
Well, what
faces?
Well, faces, exactly. Which face, though? You know what I mean? So this one is literally, they're trialing cryptocurrency payments in Mall of America. Zero fraud, zero chargebacks. We can really nail down here what transaction costs are. Essentially, it's a proof of concept, which is interesting.
Yes, well, this is what it's going to take. It's going to take entrepreneurs getting into the malls, getting into the spaces, creating these products. At the end of the day, I think the cryptocurrency they use, will consolidate. I think ultimately there'll be one. But this is great. It's nice to get awareness, in the public and to show these companies, the malls and things, that this is a useful thing and not just this weird, mysterious, dodgy thing.
Yeah. As you said, it makes it real.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So basically, guys, how this works is it's a Flexer payment app. So it's pretty much similar, I suppose, to what Centbee is. And it allows for instant payment in cryptocurrency because every transaction is guaranteed by a stake in Flexer's FXC token. And Flexer is backed by Gemini, which is, funnily enough, it came up in the show about 2 episodes ago. So the Winklevoss brothers have launched this app called Gemini, Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss. What do you think about that? In terms of the mechanics, the underlying mechanics of Flex's FXC token being backed by the cryptocurrency payment?
Look, of course, from a technical point of view, that's not a problem. I mean, it's important that they're building out this sort of tech, but ultimately, I think they're going to, as will all crypto companies and all crypto businesses, eventually brush up against the regulator. What's important is, do you know your customer? Are you doing all the anti-money laundering stuff? Are you complying with whatever regulations around payments and source of funds and so on? So I think that that's really going to be a big issue coming up, especially since these regulators and organizations like FATF, which is that Swiss organization, which basically creates guidelines for countries around the world to follow. What we're starting to see even locally is that banks are being put under pressure to follow sort of some guidelines around crypto. And that. So I think that even though these companies are doing great things, as long as they are considering the regulatory aspect, and with a lot of crypto companies today, the whole idea is that this is government resistant. This is the kind of thing they pitch, which is completely wrong. That it's you can do whatever you want. Those are the companies that are going to shortly find themselves being axed. I mean, we even see how these anonymous currencies like Monero and so on are being delisted from these exchanges because these regulatory laws are starting to be applied. Regulators take a while to catch up. If I guess you don't want them to really act very quickly because sometimes they can do stupid things like just ban crypto. You don't want them to be too slow because then you don't get anything going. But all these companies like Gemini, as long as they are towing some kind of regulatory line and thinking about regulations in the future, coming in the future, making sure that their customers are registered in KYC, no customer, all that sort of thing, then I think that these can succeed. Now, whether it becomes a global currency, that I'm doubtful of. I think that they'll be able to create these closed systems and be able to, if they have the energy and the time and the money, be able to get a few customers, like a mall, for example, to accept these things. But it's not going to have a global impact as far as I can see.
Yeah. Very quickly, we had Ricardo Fluffy Pony on the show, episode 6, I believe. Monero.
Yes. Well, I mean, I've got nothing against Fluffy Pony. I mean, he's doing what he believes in, and he's got a great community and so on. But I've been working in the regulatory space now in crypto for many, many years. I had a company prior to Centbee, which was Banky Moon, and that was an advisory company to governments and banks and so on. And one thing you can be sure of is that these currencies, that although they pitch themselves as private, they're in fact anonymous. They're going to have a very difficult time into the future, and as a preview into the $1,000 challenge, I would not be confident to invest in any kind of anonymous currency, Zcash, Dash, or anything like that. I think those are the currencies that are going to start getting really hammered soon. So I encourage people out there to innovate and so on, but I think Monero has got a very difficult task ahead of them. It's not going to be about consumer adoption for Monero. It's going to be about regulatory acceptance, and that's a very difficult thing.
We can talk about that in a second. Of course, didn't you consult to the FBI or something like that?
Well, I didn't consult to them, but I certainly had workshops discussing these very things, in fact.
Well, let's talk about this consumer adoption thing. So this has been an ongoing story, right? This Facebook Libra story, and we've been covering it for the last 2 weeks. And this headline is called "Facebook's Zuckerberg appears to put Libra launch date in doubt." And this is, funny enough, what Fazam and I were talking about yesterday, where the view here is that for this thing to actually happen, legitimately, for Facebook to launch this cryptocurrency that essentially would be centralized, which is the irony of it all, that it's going to be a very tall ask. What's your view? Is this a pipe dream from Facebook?
Yes, I think so. That's not the first time Facebook have tried to get into the money scene. That would be amazing for them. They've got a huge user base. If they can start creating a payment system around Facebook and selling direct and so on, I mean, that is a huge play. They could take on Amazon and so on. They've got a huge amount of personal data. So, that's would be significant. If everything worked out for Libra, and Libra was allowed to launch, and Facebook could then, suddenly have a massive user pool of 2 billion? How many users do they have? Is it a billion?
2.7.
No.
Billion.
I mean, it's and they've got this treasure trove of personal data. They could really change, the landscape. But again, I think they're going to really struggle. I mean, they're tied to a bunch of fiat currencies, and if you think about the long game, or when it comes to people who are interested in crypto, we don't have much of a feeling around fiat currencies, and of course the regulatory issues. I mean, they are going to be a bank essentially. They're going to be it's going to be very difficult to see how they're going to get the kind of traction, or at least get out the door. And I think that's what they're struggling to do now. If they do, though, let's say everything works out perfect for them. I mean, that'll be huge and significant. But my doubts are there.
Well, I mean, I think that's generally what the world is saying and going, well, is this really going to happen or not? And so there's a quote here from the Libra Association MD and COO. I don't know how you both, but anyway, Bertrand Perez says in mid-September that we are firmly maintaining our launch schedule between the end of the first half of the year and the end of 2020.
Well,
that's a tall.
Let's see.
All I've seen is European central banks rallying to launch Eurocoin. Binance has launched their stable coin. Everyone's trying to counteract this move from Facebook. Why do you think there's such a huge backlash? I know you've landed the point around like it can change the game, but what is the truth there?
Well, when you talk about backlash, I mean, the only backlash really is the regulatory backlash. I think the regulators in America are concerned about the power and all that information that Facebook will have, and user privacy and so on. So I mean, of course, everybody else is trying to compete with Facebook. Binance and everybody, they would love to have a global currency that everybody uses. Gives them an enormous amount of power at the end of the day. I mean, they essentially act like a central bank. So I think it's not going to be so much a consumer backlash. Probably consumers will probably love it, but they've got a lot of other things that they're going to have to deal with, before they can even launch that product.
Well, let's watch this space closely. So this one, Bitcoin shopping app Fold raises $2.5 million to bring Lightning to retailers.
Okay, I can say a lot about Lightning.
Please, dude, because what is actually going on here? So just to caveat this whole thing about scale, Simon was on the show, our friend Simon Dingle, and he was basically saying, look, in all cases where, like the internet, when it was dial-up modem, 28K or whatever the case is, people were like, oh, it's never going to scale. And then now we can download, on our phones and 5G, like an entire video in like 9 seconds.
Yes.
And so whenever the situation came, like Henry Ford, when he created the motor car, well, it's never going to scale. And then suddenly now everybody drives cars. There's a frightening slide, dude, I saw the other day about how fast people adopt. It was literally
exponential.
It was in New York sort of central thoroughfare, and everybody was on horse and carriage except for one Ford.
I've seen that.
Have you seen that?
And then it was like 10 years later.
Yeah, dude, it was like the entire thing is cars. It wasn't even 10 years. It was like shorter than that. Okay. But that's how fast scale happens. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And Lightning's doing this, or promising to do this job, right?
Exactly. When we look at something like Lightning, we say, well, don't be so pessimistic. I mean, things change and technology develops. And once upon a time, the internet was slow and rubbish. And look where we are today. So, of course, you got to always have that in mind, that things can change. And I certainly agree with him that things can change and new ideas can come along. But actually, Lightning suffers from more than just the hope that the technology will scale. When it comes to the way Lightning actually works, and I mean, we can get as technical as you like here. The idea is that it links people to each other. That's the kind of idea about Lightning. What you do is if I want to pay you, I have to have a connection to you either directly, or I have to have a connection to somebody else who has a connection to you. More likely than not, it's going to have to be a connection to somebody who has a connection to somebody who has a connection to somebody who has a connection to you. So what happens is you end up having this very difficult, and there's a well-known set of problems called the traveling salesman problem. This is a well-known mathematical problem. And when it comes to trying to navigate through essentially what is a mesh of all these different users connected to each other, then it becomes an extremely difficult thing to do efficiently. And this is a well-known mathematical problem. It's not even that Lightning has now suddenly become merged on the scene and it turns out that it has this problem. It actually is a well-known problem called the multi-depot traveling salesman. And that means it is extremely difficult to find an efficient route through a mesh network where the liquidity, where coins on that network are constantly changing and fluctuating. The balances on people's accounts are changing. So, it's not that we haven't gotten to figure out how to do that effectively. That is actually a long-running mathematical problem that has confounded mathematicians forever. And in fact, there's 5. You can go look this up. There's 5 problems in mathematics that are technically. They say they're kind of unsolvable, and if we were to solve them, then it would mean massive changes for the world. And there's a problem called the NP hard problem, or P equals NP. Okay, I said we're going to get technical. But it just says it's really very difficult to find an efficient route through a network like a Lightning network. If they ever solve it, it means that not only are they going to solve the problem of getting through Lightning, but that same kind of solution that they find, they'll be able to then solve the cure for cancer. They'll be able to do all sorts of things that seem completely impossible right now. So one of the issues, and that's just one of them, is that now suddenly we have this mathematical problem about solving this route through this network that is an unsolvable problem and has been trying to be tackled for generations. So this is one of the things. Another thing is this, is that it's extremely technically, for one, the way that it works is, if you have a Bitcoin wallet, you can give me your address and I can pay to that address. You don't have to be online. Later on, you can come back to your wallet and you can check the money's there. With Lightning, you're going to have to constantly have a computer running in your house or something that is running this software. And if your computer goes down through a power failure, you won't get your money. Okay, that's another issue. Another issue is that when you do these hops through Lightning, where you go from one person to another person to another person to you, every one of those people, according to the existing global rules and regulations, are acting as a money transmitter. And now they have to get a license to be able to operate. And they have to know their customers that are linking to them.
Well, not if you're running an anonymous coin, though.
Okay, so now you're saying, all right, if we can do this in an anonymous way where we don't need to ask permission from government and we can go completely outside of government, that's totally possible. But then you're never going to have mainstream get involved. You're never going to have companies, businesses, merchants that accept it, because they are now going to be accountable institutions. And if they're saying, we accept Lightning payments, that means a regulator can come to them and say, well, sorry, Lightning is illegal. So, there's a lot of things in life that are illegal, let's say, but people still do. But those things are not mainstream general things that the whole world engages in, that companies offer services around. If you just look at marijuana, everyone, marijuana, people smoke marijuana all the time. But you can't go to your local store and go get, unless you're in a state or in a country where it's legal, you can't go to a place where, it's convenient and cheap and there's good products and so on. So, it's one thing to say, it doesn't matter if it's illegal. We'll just work around that. We'll just we're government resistant. That is exactly how you create a system that is always going to be niche and cultish. And you'll have little communities interacting, but you're not going to reach mainstream audience. And if people want Bitcoin to be mainstream, they're going to have to toe the line. And this is the big myth, that doesn't matter about the law, doesn't matter about regulations. We're going to build a system that is government resistant. Uncensorable. Have you ever heard that word when Bitcoiners talk about payments?
Uncensorable.
Yes, you can't censor my payments. If I want to pay you, no one can stop me.
Yeah, it's like the days of prohibition. So people still got drunk, right? But not everybody.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And then when they got rid of prohibition, of course, everybody got hammered, and then the government was making tax, still do to this day. Exactly.
So if you want to actually have a system, if you want a cryptocurrency to succeed and to moon, everyone's excited about getting in early, and you're going to have to make sure that cryptocurrency is not illegal. It actually is a legal thing, that it can become commercialized. Commercialized means it reaches the mass market, which is what we want. And then those are just some of the reasons why I believe Lightning is, even though people think that this is going to save BTC, that is a pipe dream that I believe is totally unrealistic and will never appear.
Well, I think the jury's out on that one.
Okay. Well, I've given you the reasons why I believe it's not. And if you think that they will solve this NP hard problem, which has been unsolvable, if it'll solve the issue of every node.
I just don't agree with you, Lorien.
Yes, but it's not about agreeing with you. That's the how it is. Are you going to register as a money transmitter if you want to be a node on Lightning?
Of course.
Okay. So, and everybody who connects to you, you're going to have to get their information, their personal details, and so on.
Come get me.
Okay. So
bring it on. Dude. I was just winding you up, dude. I actually have no opinion.
Well, I hope you do have opinion now.
Well, I do now.
Yes.
Bring it on.
You can't have a system that you think is going to be government resistant and skirt the law.
No. That I agree with. That I agree with. I do think though that you're asking people in power to launch themselves into an entirely new paradigm that is uncomfortable, deregulated, promises a new something, and that scares people.
Certainly scares the regulator.
Yeah, totally. And so I've learned in my career of being an entrepreneur and stuff is that people love to talk about change, but very few actually change. It's like if you're a fat fuck standing in front of a mirror and you're an ugly man or an ugly woman, right? Then most people go, oh well, I want to lose a couple of pounds. But what they need to do is be truthful and honest with themselves and say, I actually need to change my entire life and my entire attitude around my body in order for me to be healthy and to do the things that I've always wanted to do instead of, smashing a bag of chips on the couch. But the thing is, that's I'm using that as a poor analogy, I suppose. But my point is people don't want change because it's too hard. They don't want it.
Well, they don't want to fight the system.
Even consumers in your world, what you're trying to do is create a new behavior, right? And so you're trying to get them to experience it through an instant gratification thing around cash, right? But they're going to do it and they're going to experience it, but that's not going to sustain the behavior. That's my view. And so, I'm happy to be proved wrong, and please feel free to disagree with me. That's why we do this show. But I'm talking about, I've been doing marketing comms for 2 decades. And to create sustainable behaviors in people, it requires a consistent reinforcement program over time. It's like you've done it once, you're doing it again, you're doing it again, you're doing it again. Now it's just natural. It's the only way I know. You know what I mean? How many, it's like electric cars. It's like, well, geez, this Tesla thing, it's unusual. Why I can't ever see myself not having my hands on the steering wheel, and then you drive it in autopilot mode and you're falling asleep at the wheel. But the first time you're scared shitless, but it's because of the opportunity that you have to reinforce the behavior, which means you're going from A to B every single day. And it's not just I'm taking one trip once in a Tesla. It's like, well, this is how it is now for me.
Yes. Well, to be honest, I think an autonomous vehicle is exactly the biggest habit. The biggest change in behavior. What we're trying to do is we're trying to make, we're trying to make it so that there doesn't have to be any change in behavior. People use money all the time. We have mobile apps. We've got Zapper and SnapScan and all these different things. Bitcoin doesn't have to be different. It's not different, actually. The only thing different about it is the fees and at the end of the day where it's issued from. But Bitcoin, we're lucky because we don't have to try and change people's behavior. We just say, instead of using Snapper or ZapScan, what's it? Zapper, SnapScan?
Zapper and SnapScan, yeah.
Use a different mobile app. And instead of connecting to your bank account, go and get some Bitcoin at Pick and Pay, load it onto your Centbee wallet. So, we're lucky in that regard. We don't have to go and try and change people's behaviors. What we have to try and do is show them that this thing isn't illegal. It's not mysterious. Unfortunately, all cryptos have this issue where it's volatile. But I think that volatility, once we start realizing the other use cases around crypto, and specifically Bitcoin being able to be used as this new, genuine cloud. We all talk about cloud, how we all have services in the cloud. Bitcoin is a real cloud. It's not owned by anybody. It's not a server sitting in some company's basement, So, and when people start using it as that kind of system, then everyone's going to realize, oh, hang on, now I see why Bitcoin has value, because, I need to get Bitcoin to be able to upload my photos. That's how money starts. It is a commodity, a useful thing. And Bitcoin is a useful thing. So we definitely have an issue with volatility right now, and having all these thousands of cryptocurrencies and this whole idea, and I blame exchanges for this. Even though Fazam, I love the guy to bits, and I wish him all the best. And to me, the whole idea of having an exchange is encouraging people to trade and to invest and to gamble. That's all it is. It's not helping in terms of how do we drive the space forward. How do we how do we first of all make people feel comfortable that this is not you buy Bitcoin because it's about investing and about making money. It's just another thing that you need if you want to now use the services that the blockchain gives you. So we've got a huge way to go and unfortunately I think it's going to take a collapse in this crypto market, and to be honest, I believe we're in it.
You mean like a crypto collapse?
Yes.
Or do you mean a financial system collapse?
Well, that's a separate thing. I think if the financial system collapse is going to drive people into crypto, but crypto itself has to go through that cycle where it's going to everyone's going to be excited. We've seen all these bubbles, but there's going to be a general crypto collapse, and only those cryptos that have fundamental value, fundamental use, are going to be the ones that survive. And to be honest, the only one I see is the original version of Bitcoin.
Very interesting. That was, funnily enough, a point Fazam made as well. He said, since the collapse, it's only the companies that are truly creating value that are still around.
Yes.
And you've been around. I mean, how many collapses have you been through? 3?
All
4,
of them.
5, 6?
I've been involved with Bitcoin since 2010.
Okay, so that's right from the beginning.
And Fazam also wants the world that I want. He wants a world that has a single currency, that everybody uses. That's the world that his vision, and I share that entirely. He is a little bit more modest about which currency that's going to be. He's quite happy for the markets to figure that out. I feel confident in the fact that original version of Bitcoin, and that's traded as BSV. That's the only one that has all the ingredients that I've been talking about. The regulatory friendly and so on, which is going to make it the one that dominates and eventually supersedes every other cryptocurrency.
Well, let's talk about it. We'll do a couple more news pieces and then we'll
Cool
get on
stuff.
to the rest of the segment. So scammers boost BSV price with fake Satoshi confirmation. So this was a piece that actually came out, I believe, this is around about May. But I wanted to talk about it because this whole fork thing, and no one seems to have consensus around, as you say, what is the real Bitcoin?
Yeah.
And you're saying, well, by design, and some people are saying, no, it's by block size and blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. What is this idea here around fake Satoshi confirmation?
Yes. Well, let's talk about the forks before I get into the fake Satoshi.
Cool.
This is something that really kind of rocked Bitcoin. There was differences in the community around Bitcoin about how it should scale. The BTC community are very determined to make Bitcoin something that doesn't become commercialized, because they fear that if it does become commercialized, only large organizations are going to be able to sustain the network with mining power. And they believe, falsely, that everybody should be allowed to run a little Bitcoin node in their room, which is, what they call validating transactions. So there was a big split in the community about 2 years ago where one part of the community wanted Bitcoin to remain small with small blocks. And the other community said, no, that's not the point of Bitcoin. It needs to scale to infinity. Blocks should never have a limit. And that's when the rift happened. And what BTC did was they changed how Bitcoin worked. Bitcoin is supposed to be all about the signature. When you create a transaction, you sign the transaction. It's embedded. The signature is embedded in the transaction, and that makes it legally binding. That's why I believe that the signature should be there. Well, the BTC community said, well, we're not trying to create a legal system here. We don't care about the law. We're trying to create a decentralized store of value system. So that split the community, and one half of the community changed Bitcoin, BTC, to allow that the signatures to be separated from the transaction so they could fit more into the block instead of having to raise the block. Then the other community said, no, we're going to keep it the same. We're actually going to raise the block. And that was Bitcoin Cash. And the last time we had a chat, it was all about Bitcoin Cash versus Bitcoin Core, or BTC. And I was on the BCH side of things because that was the unchanged Bitcoin. I've been very consistent. I am always on the same original design of Bitcoin, how Satoshi Nakamoto invented it. And it's not because he's God. It's not because there's a 10 commandments. I believe that it's the only way that Bitcoin will ever be able to work. So then BTC went off on their way. BCH went off on their way. And the same thing happened with BCH. Part of the community, the guys, Roger Ver and all those guys, they said, well, we want to change BCH because we want to have certain features in it. And again, this community was split between the guys who wanted to change BCH and the guys who didn't. And the first time it split, the BTC, the changed version of Bitcoin, kept the BTC ticker. And that's why most people think BTC is the original version, and that's why it has the highest value. It's artificial. That's the issue there. And what happened with BCH is that the changed version kept the BCH ticker. And the unchanged version, the original version of Bitcoin, the way it was designed, had to get a new ticker, BSV. So, I've been consistent about sticking with the original design of Bitcoin to this day, and yet, everybody thinks of the BSV community as a fork of a fork, which is completely false. That is the irony of this whole thing. But of course, people involved with BTC want their version of Bitcoin to succeed. They want a decentralized, small block system that is anti-government or government resistant. And of course, they want to be the Bitcoin. They want everyone to think of themselves as Bitcoin because that means that it will have the highest value and so on. So it's been a complete disaster. It's all been about, which is the real one. And I constantly fight that, even with 5FM now. I'm trying to, I fight with Simon on Twitter about, this whole thing. He thinks I'm being completely misleading because I'm calling BSV the original protocol. I believe that he's the one, and I don't think he's being malicious. I just think that he's mistaken. Now, when it comes to the people around Bitcoin, this space is not driven by fundamentals. What do I mean? Well, the reason why these cryptocurrencies have value is not because they're being used and everybody's into it, and now there's companies and there's businesses and there's like activity going on. These communities are largely driven by the personalities that dominate those cryptocurrencies.
Like Craig Wright.
The core, the Blockstream guys, Fluffy Pony and so on. These personalities are the only thing that people can judge a cryptocurrency by, because the only other place that they can do it is on an exchange. An exchange is just people gambling and buying and selling. That is not the market. That's just the speculation. That's just the casino that's going on. And that's largely dominated by whales who manipulate those markets anyway. So now what we have is we've got these personalities that everybody's judging and saying, do I like Fluffy Pony? No. Okay, I don't like Monero. Do I like Roger Ver? Yes. Okay, I like Bitcoin Cash. It's all personality driven. And unfortunately, Craig Wright came onto the scene immediately saying, well, I'm Satoshi Nakamoto. And I mean, for the last almost 10 years that I've been involved in Bitcoin, this is a big deal for me. Who's Satoshi? I went down every rabbit hole. Somebody said, oh, this guy could be Satoshi. And I went and looked at him. But now Craig Wright has come out as being Satoshi, never proved it in the way that people wanted him to prove it. He's suing people who are calling him a fraud. He's Australian, he's arrogant, he's loudmouthed, he's swearing at everybody, he's talking about how he wants to bring everybody down. A very difficult personality. If we're judging these cryptocurrencies by personality, of course he's going to be a huge stumbling block for a lot of people. Most people hate his guts. And unfortunately, that's now what BSV is now connected to. So we are going to have to go through this. I am committed to BSV because it's the original version of Bitcoin. And by the way, a lot of people think that I'm committed to BSV because Craig Wright actually invested in my company.
He did, right?
Yes. So he's an investor, as well as another personality in BSV, Calvin Ayre. This billionaire tycoon, gambling tycoon magnate, and also a wild character in his own right. I sought those guys out because Craig Wright believes in the same thing I believe in, which is that the original Bitcoin is the only one that's going to succeed. But now, of course, my whole business and everything that I'm about is now hitched to them. And everyone's like, well, Lorien, you're bought. The only reason you're pumping and pushing BSV is because, you're owned by these guys. Of course, you're going to shill BSV.
Whipping boy.
Yeah, but the irony is that my Centbee was a business, and we had a lot of potential investors that I didn't go for. We started on BTC, the original Bitcoin, and it became then it split and so on, and then we went to Bitcoin Cash. Centbee was a Bitcoin Cash wallet. It split again, and now we're a BSV wallet. And when we went looking for investors, I wanted to go. And I actually went to Zurich. I flew to Zurich and I met Craig Wright and I said, Craig, I've got this wallet. It's at that stage it was a Bitcoin Cash wallet, and that's how the investment began. So he believes in exactly what I believe in. Now, whether he's Satoshi or not, that's irrelevant. It makes no difference to the technology. I'm building a BSV wallet. I'm not building a Craig Wright wallet. But now, unfortunately, because this whole space is dominated by personality and people think Craig Wright is fake and a fraud and so on, it's an unfortunate part of this whole thing. But ultimately, I believe that the technology is going to win, not the personality.
Well, this is a great point that you're landing here, because this article actually says here that, when the fork happened, Craig Wright basically then said that he was going to transfer essentially the BTC, the Bitcoin, the original Bitcoin, from the so-called Satoshi wallets to prove his identity. So all this was happening at the same time, and that drove, according to this article, a $60 boost in the Bitcoin BSV price in less than 10 hours. So that's crazy.
Well, that's the market. I mean, that's how markets are. You can, you can dump that much, as we've seen, and you can pump that much. That's how all markets work. But yes, he makes these statements, and people freak out. And at the end of the day, it is such a thinly traded market that like $1 million on an exchange can really change things. And so of course we saw these pumps. But you got to remember that Craig Wright's not a complete idiot. He's not a fool. Everyone always jokes about the fact that he's so overqualified. He's got all these degrees. But do we trust that he has them? To be honest, if you actually put aside the personality differences and you look into this guy and you look at his history and you see actually the credentials he has, he's very well versed in law and economics and so on. If he does in fact own those coins, he's not going to be this fool who's going to just say, well, look, here's my bank balance, guys, and I'm now going to go and dump it on an exchange. He owns all that. That's value. He's going to want to make sure that would you like to show the world your bank account and tell them that you're now going to go and dump all your BTC onto an exchange? He obviously wants to, maximize the value of that whole thing and not completely upturn this market, which it would.
So in theory, he may be proved right.
Well,
no pun intended.
Yes, that's the idea. His keys. It was a very complicated situation when he was involved with Dave Kleiman and so on. What they did was they decided to put the keys into. What they did was they gave it to a bonded courier, which means on this specific day, in this year, this courier will then deliver all those keys to whoever's addressed to, and that date is supposed to be the beginning of next year. So the beginning of next year, Craig Wright will then, according to him, be able to take ownership of those keys. Now, everyone's thinking, well, then he's just going to dump all these BTC. But again, that's a completely crazy thing. If he wants to, if he's smart, he's not going to just go and dump all his BTC onto the market. He's going to try and sell it slowly. But the thing is that as soon as he moves those coins, everyone's going to know. This is the idea about Bitcoin. It's transparent. Everyone knows, those early addresses. So you can be sure there's going to be people watching it. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how that whole ownership transfer works. And also now he's going through a whole court case with Dave Kleiman, his ex-partner's brother, which
he lost apparently.
Well, no, he hasn't lost anything.
Thrown out of court?
It wasn't thrown out of court, of course not. All it is, it's sort of in process. He delivered his testimony. The magistrate came out with some things about, some of the things he doesn't really believe. But it's not a court case. It's not a trial. It's a magistrate. It's a hearing and so on. So it's going to be something that takes a long time. And ultimately, if Craig Wright loses the case, well, yes, he's going to have to hand over half Satoshi Nakamoto's bitcoins, which all it's going to do is prove that he is in fact Satoshi Nakamoto. So it's another one of those things about this whole space. People love controversy and they love scandal, and Craig Wright has certainly delivered that in spades. But to be honest, and I'll admit this to you, I know him and I've met him and I've been with him. In fact, I'm going to be with him next week. And when he's not being defensive on the internet, because that guy gets so much trolling and abuse, and the abuse I get on Twitter when I post, kills me, even though it's just a couple people trolling me. So I feel sorry for this guy, but he's actually a really nice person, a genuinely intelligent human being who has a lot of empathy about the world and really wants to make the world a better place. And unfortunately, this internet persona that we all love to hate, has just. People love to hate this guy and they love to abuse him, and this is the nature of social media. If you see something you don't like, you're going to go troll that thing to death if you can. And it's so unfortunate. I believe that one day he'll be vindicated. I believe that one day people will see that, okay, he is Satoshi Nakamoto, and wow, was he mistreated. It's just such a pity that guy's getting this.
Yeah, it is. And on that bombshell, it's time to end the news. Right then, let's move on to part 2, the crypto cats. Do you like those cats?
Yeah, they sound like they just had a market crash.
So this is where we keep up with the lions of the crypto world. This chap is
CZ
Maneezy.
Yeah.
The Binance Breezy.
Yeah, he's he's got an uphill battle. I think he's constantly trying to avoid regulators. He keeps moving his business. Now he's in Malta. I think if he doesn't think carefully about complying, with whatever rules are around crypto, he's going to have a lot of trouble in the future. So yeah, I wish him luck, but it doesn't seem like he's on the right path right now.
Well, we've covered a lot of Binance developments over the last few weeks. This one, the team found that Binance CEO gets dragged by Bitcoin fans for the dumbest ever crypto tweet. Have you seen this?
What was the tweet?
I'll have to dig it up, but basically what it says here. So Binance CEO CZ got dragged on Twitter and was nominated for the dumbest crypto tweet award after he shared a story touting the popularity of Binance Coin, his company's native token. And I believe the stink there was, well, how can you be promoting your own shit when you're supposed to be an exchange? Right. But it went on to say that many of his followers expressed skepticism when he recounted an interesting interaction he had with a 14-year-old boy. And that's where it went south.
Well, I didn't read the tweet, and it sounds dodgy. And yeah, good luck to him. Hope he doesn't get axed.
Dude, I know. Did you see a WeWorks CEO got ousted?
Yeah. That's a business. I mean, as an aside, I mean, that's a difficult business. Retail. I mean, what's it? Real estate.
WeWork.
Yes, WeWork. I don't know how that model can be sustainable. I mean, I think America's about to go through a recession, and it's having all that. It's a very difficult to see how WeWork will survive.
Yep. That's definitely the sentiment. The risk, though, what's the single biggest risk to the world of crypto and blockchain today?
The single biggest risk is. This is what I have been feeling, and I'm glad you asked me that question. But the biggest risk right now is this crypto infighting. All these different people with their different cryptocurrencies calling every other cryptocurrency. I mean, I do it I do it, but it's actually the community itself. That in fact, we don't have a community. We've got different communities. I mean, I'm running a campaign right now, on radio, national radio, and I'm trying to get people to download Centbee and use Bitcoin because it's so easy and it's safe, and don't worry, it's not a huge problem, and it's so that's what I'm trying to get. And yet my social media campaigns are being trolled by guys like Simon, who I respect greatly, and I actually appreciate his the fact that he's combating this whole thing, because I get a chance to troll him back in a way. But I'm trying to now put out
trolls loving trolls.
Yeah, trolls loving trolls. We have a history, and he's such a nice guy and so on. But he is a bit of he's giving it to me hard, and I'm struggling there, and that's a problem, because I'm trying to put out there this message that don't worry about crypto. It's safe. Use it. It's easy. It's cheap. It's quick. It's accessible. Your mom can use it. And yet my social media campaigning is now being drowned out by trolls saying, "Oh, you're a fraud. You're like shilling BSV and Craig Wright," and and that's not the messaging that I'm supposed to be wanting to get out there. I want to get out to the world, that at least to South Africans, that don't worry, this is easy. It's on an app on your phone, and it's so simple. And yet the trolling on my social media campaign is about, oh, this is a fraud. This is this is a fake Bitcoin. You're being misled, and so on. And those are crypto people. So, I am now putting out a national campaign to the people who have never used crypto. And I'm saying, get into crypto. Look how easy it is. It's simple. And yet the crypto people who are anti-BSV are now drowning out that campaign with, it's a fraud, it's fake. And I mean, can you believe it? How often do you get an opportunity to do this, to reach a whole country, to say, look how easy this is, get into crypto. Every crypto enthusiast wants the mainstream to get on board. And yet what's happening right now is that the mainstream, now that they're finally hearing a national radio campaign about Bitcoin, are hearing the prominent people in the space saying, oh, don't trust that crypto. It's a fraud. So they're shooting themselves in the foot, because all they're doing is they're creating confusion. There's suddenly now people are like, what? It's a fraud? A national radio campaign that's being, that's going out and getting people to download Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a fraud. I'm not going to get into this. It feels unsafe, and there's so much confusion. So the irony is that it's not that I'm trying to fight the incumbents, the banks, the businesses that are out there. I'm actually fighting crypto enthusiasts who want the same thing I want. So that's the biggest risk I'm finding in this country today. Other crypto people.
Well, it's certainly, I would echo that sentiment just from having spoken to pretty much a lot of the who's who. And there's certainly a disconnect on point of view.
Absolutely. It's so unfortunate. But, maybe this is what we need to do.
But maybe it's also healthy.
It's not healthy.
Do you not think so? What, like if you have the debate, you know what I mean, to have the open discussion, the debate, to explore different points of view, because otherwise,
that's true.
You'd be building a kind of a dictatorship type culture within in the crypto community. When
yes,
if you think about the sentiment behind Satoshi's white paper, it was all about the liberation of the economically constrained. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yes,
if that makes sense.
That's
Power to
a
all,
good point.
and fuck the banks and take the
not fight the banks.
Not fight. Sorry. To propose an alternative to
yes.
the decentralized, as you said, the decentralized ledger, because quite frankly, the financial system has been centralized forever, and the man in the street is the one that has paid the price.
Sure, no doubt. No, you're right.
And
that's probably what needs to happen right now, is that we need to have, this growing pain period where it's all uncertain. Everyone's trying to figure it out. Every time the insiders battle it out, maybe somehow information leaks out into the wider audience and people get that. To be honest, I don't think that there's going to be any, through this debating and arguing, that's not going to resolve it. All these trolls and people debating on social media, it's not ultimately going to have an effect, but it certainly has made this whole space a lot more kind of exciting in a way, thrilling, because now you're battling and fighting and arguing and so on. But to be honest, I think ultimately it's actually going to be the right technology and the right economic system that's going to prevail. So all this will be something that is forgotten. All this period now of all of us arguing and fighting about it is going to be forgotten. It'll be just a part of history. It might be told in documentaries and stuff, but it's not ultimately going to determine the direction of the space. What is going to determine the direction of the space are the products and things that people build around it. And I believe that luckily, again, following the original rules of the Bitcoin protocol, that's the only one that has the ingredients where you can actually do that. You can build those businesses and those products. And I'm proving it. There isn't a company like Centbee in this country that I'm competing against. I'm not competing. I don't have any competitors. And that's because I believe I've chosen the correct path, the correct cryptocurrency for all the reasons and many others that I've given you.
Sure. Well, that concludes the Risk Audience Q&A, so I'm going to have to kill this live stream. Sorry, guys. I know you're on there, but sorry for you. But thanks for tuning in. You can always catch the podcast on YouTube and wherever you get your favorite podcast. So I'm going to kill that one. This is Q&A first from this chap here. Hold on.
Hi, Matt. James here. Great show, by the way. Just a quick one. What's the difference between a long trade and a short trade, if you can, please?
Do you know that one?
Well, I know that when you trade, I'm not an expert. When you go long, then what you're doing is you're buying in the hope that it's going to go up in value. And
yes.
When you do a short, then you're selling, and
yep.
So I guess it's got something to do with that.
Yeah. So I mean, I played a little bit around with that, 18 months ago. But basically, you're shorting the market when it's going down. So you bank a certain amount of money against the ratio of how far that market goes down, and then long is the exact opposite of that. So when it's running, it's running. Okay. And so anyway,
I'm very anti this whole trading idea,
dude. What a joke, eh? I don't think anyone should day trade on crypto. It's a waste of time. It really is.
Hi, Matt. This is Desmond here. I've got a question for you here. Just regarding Bitcoin SV. Okay. Now, is Bitcoin SV really...
Oh, shit. Hold on. Really
the original Bitcoin? And why is it the original Bitcoin? I think that's the question that's got on my mind. It's puzzling me here. So if you could just answer that for me and just give me your perspective and your answer, and I hope that can help project me in the right direction with my decision I need to make. Thanks, Matt.
So you've kind of just sum it up, but it's the original design, right?
Yes, exactly. When the original, when Satoshi Nakamoto produced Bitcoin, what he did was he created what's called a white paper, which defines the rules of the system. And so when we talk about the original version of Bitcoin, what we're talking about is the original design that Satoshi created. What happened was BTC changed that design by removing the signatures out of the transactions, thereby making transactions non-legally binding. And to me, that is a fatal flaw in BTC's approach to this cryptocurrency. And the reason why they did that is because they want to build a government-resistant system that doesn't need law. And that's a pipe dream and a naive reality that will not be achieved. So when it comes to Bitcoin SV, the only Bitcoin right now that follows the exact design and rules of the original Bitcoin is Bitcoin SV. Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Core, or BTC, have diverged from that design and are heading into a catastrophe in terms of their futures.
I love it when people speculate. So let's move on to the final part of the show, trading the market. So you've got $1,000. What are we doing with it?
Okay, so now you're going to laugh about this because if it comes to trading, now I'm going to have a totally different opinion. One of the things that happens in Bitcoin is, and I'm going to focus on Bitcoin specifically, I'm not going to talk about any of the others, is that every 4 years or so, there is a supply halving. And what
that's
does that
coming
mean?
up now, right?
It's coming up now. And that means that every block that a miner produces right now, he gets a reward of 12.5 Bitcoins. Almost 4 years ago, he was getting 25 Bitcoins. And then 4 years before that, in the beginning, he was getting 50 Bitcoins. And that's how new Bitcoins come into the market. Now, we're heading up to the fourth year, where the supply on those blocks, in other words, the reward or the subsidy that the miner earns is going to be halved, which means his income is going to be halved. Okay. Now, every single time it's happened in the past, people have thought to themselves, well, in economics, value is determined in what's called a supply and demand dynamic. And if you have a demand for something and the supply goes down, well, it means that the value of that thing that you're trading goes up. Because now the same amount of people want the thing, but there's less of it. So they're willing to bid the price up. So this is what's happened. Bitcoin, every time there's been a halving, people are like, it's coming up. The halving is coming up. There's going to be half of the product on the market. And if the demand stays the same, the price is going to go up. And people have traded that, and it's become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that means the price has gone up. We've actually seen how Bitcoin over time has gone up in value just before the halvings and then kept on going. But I think that this halving that's coming up right now is going to be, it's going to be the same in some respects, but it's going to be, it's going to have a different outcome. Now, how's it going to be the same? I think people are going to be trading Bitcoin in the same way that they were trading before, having that same idea. Well, the supply is going down. That means surely the price is going to go up. So let's buy now, because when the price goes up, we'll be able to make a killing. So I believe that BTC, as well as all the other cryptos that are coming up to this halving, which is BCH and BSV, although it's going to be a little bit different at the time. People are going to think the exact same thing. They're going to say, well, BTC is about to halve. I think it's February, early next year. Start buying. Start buying right now, because when the supply halves, it's going to be double the price or triple the price. So I believe that over the next few months, the price of BTC, okay, right now we're in a slump. I don't know how long that slump is going to last, but it's in a slump. I would actually buy BTC.
Buy now.
If I was trading, if I was a trader, I would buy BTC right now, because people are going to be thinking and that prophecy is going to be self-fulfilled, that the price is going to go up. They're going to buy that rumor, and then when it gets to the halving, then there might be some kind of dump. But it's not going to be the same as all the other times, because now we have an issue where if miners now have a reduced income on the block and they are not profitable anymore, they are going to withdraw their mining power off the network, okay? Because it's not profitable. They don't want to lose money, all right? If they withdraw their mining power off the network, it means what's called the hash rate goes down. In other words, how many computers or processes are hashing. If they withdraw that hashing power off the network, it means that suddenly transactions are going to slow down. In other words, the blocks are not going to be confirmed every 10 minutes, and the fees are going to go way up, okay? Because now people are wanting to get their transactions into those blocks. That means when the security goes down, people are going to get afraid. And we saw how just now, this dump that's just happened, there was a huge dump in the mining power of Bitcoin. I don't know if you saw that.
I did. We covered it about 3 episodes ago.
And everyone was like, whoa, what's happening with Bitcoin? People are losing faith and what's going on. price goes down. I believe this is what's going to happen. Miners are suddenly going to become unprofitable. Maybe if they're lucky, what's going to happen is the speculation is going to pump up the price enough where they just stay profitable. But I don't think that's going to be sustainable. I think as soon as it dips below profit, that price of Bitcoin goes down just slightly. Miners are going to exit, hashing power is going to go down, transactions are going to get really expensive, and the confirmation times are going to get really slow. And Bitcoin, essentially like it did in 2018 and before that, during the hype cycles, suddenly people are going to be like, I can't get my Bitcoin off the exchanges, or I can't move my Bitcoin. The fees are too high. What's going on? And it's going to create this kind of death spiral. Where suddenly now it's impossible to transact on BTC. The price of transactions are too high. Miners are pulling out because they're not getting profitable, and the whole thing is going to come to a grinding halt. Now, that is a catastrophic failure. And that is the ultimate bad situation that could happen. But I do believe that we're now closer to that reality happening this time, given that BTC, unless something changes in the market sentiment and so on, unless that price doesn't go way higher than it is today, miners are going to pull out. And as soon as miners pull out, the whole thing grinds to a halt. So it's funny, but when people talk about the security of Bitcoin, it's about the hashing power and blah, blah, it's all that kind of thing. The security right now on Bitcoin BTC is directly correlated with the price of the coin. Price goes up, BTC will stay safe. Price goes down, BTC is finished. So the security is around the price. But I think just before this happens, before 2020 February, March, I'm not sure what the exact date is, I think you're going to see a massive a pump in the price. So if I was to day trade and I was to speculate, why not? Put it in there.
There you go.
Buy now. Buy now.
Yes, get lock in that trade. Lock it in.
That doesn't mean I have a long-term view on BTC here. I'm very pessimistic about its long-term future.
As we have just heard.
Uh-huh.
Thank you so much, Lorien, for being on the show, dude. Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out the Matt Brown Show. I hope you found incredible value on this channel and on this particular episode. If you haven't done so yet, why don't you hit that subscribe button right now? Pound that subscribe button, and that will allow you to get access to more content as it becomes available. And don't forget to access and approve notifications. So when we do release new content, you will be notified.